Hello, and welcome to the Trip Sitting podcast, where we explore what it means to be human. My name is Cam Leeds, and I am the host. And on this episode, I want to talk about the state of psychedelics. Now, this is coming off of Psychedelics Science 2023 that happened last week right here in Denver, Colorado. And it was really an incredible conference for me. And I definitely came away from it with a lot of thoughts on where I'm at, where, the state of psychedelics as a whole is. And I just met so many really, really amazing people and got to feel like I was part of the community. And it was really a great time. But that's not to say that, there aren't some drawbacks as well, and maybe some things that worry me moving forward into the future as well. So I'm going to take this solo podcast episode right here to put my thoughts on the table and kind of just let everybody know where I think we're at. And then, of course, if anybody has any differing opinions, I love to hear from you. I love to have these discussions, especially with people who disagree with me, because that's really what this is about. That's how you build communities. It's not about everybody just blindly agreeing with each other all the time. It's about sitting down and having discussions and being able to see things from another person's perspective. So let's get started here. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that after being in the conference with 12,000 attendees, I think was the final number that at least MAPS keeps on saying. It's hard not to be so positive and oh my God, this is huge. Everybody's talking about this. But, after I step outside and talk to my friends that are not in this space, it's more apparent than ever that we live in a bubble. We live in a huge fucking bubble. Not everybody is talking about this. In fact, most people have not probably heard a single fucking thing about psychedelics over the past year, even though it is still showing up in all these pop culture things. It's showing up in news articles. It's showing up on news stations and stuff like that. There's a lot of people that still have absolutely no idea that this movement is going on. And that's not a good thing or a bad thing. That's just something that I think that we need to recognize, is that we're surrounding ourselves with people that talk about psychedelics all the time. But that is not the norm in the slightest bit. So we're very much still living in this bubble of psychedelics. And it's really up to us to decide, where we're going to steer the ship. And I don't think that this is something that, should necessarily be pushed onto everybody else. The best way to get somebody who might be anti-psychedelic or just doesn't, indifferent to psychedelics or something, I think the best way that we could get the world to open up to psychedelics is simply just by embodying the principles and the teachings that psychedelics have given us, which to me has just been about how do I unconditionally love myself and then let that radiate outwards into unconditionally loving others. And that's the best way to get anybody who is not on this psychedelic train to at least be curious about it, curious enough to have a conversation about it and want to. But if we start trying to push this onto people and saying you need to do psychedelics and never heard of something, most people's opinions of psychedelics are still bad. And that's something that we still need to recognize and proceed with caution whenever we try to have these discussions. Is that it's not about pushing people and, giving them the data and all of that. That unfortunately just doesn't really seem to work as well in today's society. But if I just embody love and embody light and positivity and just go out into the world like that, that might make some people curious as to, hey, how'd you end up like this? And that's when that opens the door to actually have that discussion. So number one is, we live in a bubble and we need to just still be wary of that we are a very, very, very small percentage of an overall population. Now, the second thing is that capitalism is not the most friendly when it comes to actually doing the most positive for people in the context of psychedelics, for sure. I'm not going to talk about capitalism as a whole, but there are just some things about it that just feel kind of dirty. And at the conference, it really felt like there were, people trying to figure out how do we make money from this. And while obviously that does need to be something that we figure out, I'm not saying capitalism is bad in any way. It's just that that should not be the very first thought, and the very first thing that we figure out is, how does this make money? I get why we need to, but if that's where we're focused, we're just going to create more problems than we're fixing. And basically, if psychedelics have taught me anything, it's that society as a whole just needs to change. There needs to be a lot of changes in how our society is run currently, and with the way that capitalism is currently working, and with the technology that we have at our fingertips, it's not necessarily working for everybody, and there's a lot of people that are going to get left behind. And psychedelics have taught me how to care for the collective. So we need to figure out better ways within capitalism, because I do still think that's probably the best system that we have, but we still need to figure out the best ways that can actually care for the collective without people, being so protective and defensive of theirs, and having like this scarcity mindset that I need to just worry about me and all of that. And if I'm not worried about myself, like, my shit's going to get fucked. And like, I understand why people think that, like, because that's a real issue. And that's a real thing to kind of be scared of, if you're not, living outside the system, and you've been told to follow the system your whole life and haven't really questioned it. I probably think the exact same way. But capitalism, in the sense of, or in the context of psychedelics, doesn't necessarily always make the most money. If we really truly want people to heal, we need to figure out a way to both make money and provide healing for the people that need the healing at the exact same time. They can't be mutually exclusive of each other. So we need to figure out how to do that. And with the way that a lot of things are going, and with just some of the conversations that I've had and overheard with people, or heard other of my friends have with people, it seems like there's a lot of people that are really jumping into this just to make money. And that definitely worries me. People need to actually sit with this fucking medicine more and just take more psychedelics. So like, I mean, there's people that have literally, had one psychedelic journey and then immediately are like, oh fuck, I'm gonna jump into this, like, this is gonna be my whole life. Like, that's absolutely insane to me. Like, you have not actually learned anything. And I get, when you have this psychedelic experience and this journey, that you want to share it with the world, like, you really do, and you want to talk about it and do all that. But immediately jumping in and being like, how can I make money on it? That's where we get into some issues. So like, talk about it, go to integration circles, have more conversations with people. But if you have these experiences and then your immediate thought is make money, take more fucking psychedelics, please, because you'll realize that that's not the only thing that matters in the world. And you really need to go through like that ego death process. The next thing is, there's a lot of good things happening too within psychedelics. I just focused on, I think, quite a few negative things, but a lot of really, really amazing things. There were some absolutely amazing people that are so community focused and oriented and full of love and trying to heal others. And it was so inspiring just being around so many people with the same goals to try to actually help the collective and truly want to do so much good in this world. Like, there was some amazing, loving energy in that room. And I don't want anything that I just said before this to take away from that. A lot of the clinical trials are going incredibly, incredibly well. So for a lot of the people that do just follow the data is looking really, really amazing on it. There's the most amounts of clinical trials currently happening right now involving psychedelics than have ever happened in history. So that's really, really amazing. The FDA, they just issued a guidance on like how to do clinical trials, which was really, really big. So this is something that is being taken seriously, and the government is taking notice, and we do want this to be legal. But I also do want to say that, clinical trials and psychedelics used just in a therapeutic setting is not going to help. like this needs to be available for everybody to use however they see fit. Some people will 100% always just go that route. They want a professional, they want a therapist, psychiatrist to be with them every single time that they're using these medicines. And I completely get that. But for the people that can't afford that and simply don't want that experience and want to be able to explore their inner consciousness on their own, it needs to be available for those people to use as well. So there's not a better or worse thing. It's they need to be happening at the exact same time. And yeah, I think I needed to say something about that. Um, the next thing that I want to touch on is that I think a lot of the people that are in this industry, I think myself included here, I don't really have a clear course, and I'm fine with that. But there's a lot of people that I think that they have their clear course, like this is what I'm doing, this is what I want to do. And that's fine at the moment, but I think that more people also need to be open to changing course and be just open to new possibilities. You know, our ego has a way of wanting to get comfortable, and when it sets its mind, it sets itself on something, we want to continue to do that thing and almost kind of force that thing just because that's what we've been doing and it's easier and it's uncomfortable to do something new and scary and different. But I think everybody within this space needs to be open to new ways of doing things just constantly, and realizing that we can change and we can pivot and we can do things differently really at any given moment, and really just learn to, surrender and trust the universe, that the universe has our back as long as we're working in full alignment with our heart and we're acting out of love and authenticity and being genuine to ourselves and others. Everything is just going to work out, and it's going to be uncomfortable at times, and it's up to us to just be able to stay grounded and kind of weather that uncomfort as it's happening. And the last thing I want to say is psychedelics have taught me how to really see the humanity in everybody and realize that obviously nobody on this earth is perfect, and that's what makes us actually perfect at the end of the day, is all of those imperfections. And all of us need to really be able to see that in others and not criticize other people that might be doing things differently and might be doing things, wrong in the way that we see it, and just be open to having those conversations with people and not criticizing and shutting people out of the conversation, because that's just going to create more divide and it's going to make it harder for us to collectively move towards this goal that we have of helping everybody heal themselves. It's not about me healing you. It's about me being here while you heal yourself. And if you have any questions, you can use all of these different resources that hopefully everybody in this community is creating as a collective, because the world definitely just seems very, very divided to me at the moment. It seems like there's just so much trauma that so many people just carry around with them, and they just don't even know that they can get rid of it, that they're allowed to get rid of it. And so we need to recognize that humanity in people, that there's a lot of unresolved trauma that's just going around. And it's not necessarily our jobs to just, go and tell people, and again, like preach at them. Like that's not it. It's about embodying these principles and embodying love and being vulnerable and willing to share our story of how we've healed and talk about this shit too, not talk about just the incredibly positive aspects. But this is hard work. It is work. And I understand why a lot of people don't want to do this work. I really do get it. People like being comfortable where they're at, even if that comfort per se is still, bringing them stress and is still, bringing them depression and anxiety. They're used to it. So just seeing that humanity in everybody, and understanding where people are coming from, and really just loving everybody. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's about loving others and really learning to also love yourself at the same time. And that's all I got for you. So thank you everybody for listening. And one of the last things that I do want to actually say is that, I'm really, really excited for the future. I'm excited to see where this goes. There's Obviously, trip sitting is something that I'm still passionate about. This might kind of change over time as I do it. I keep saying I want to write more, but yet I still fucking don't. But that being said, I am going to start writing for one of my friends' newsletters called Shroomtown. So you should definitely go check that out. And then I also do want to add an element to trip sitting that I haven't quite named yet. But the original idea for the show was actually to record interviews with people while we're both on mushrooms. And they would be like in-person interviews, and I still very much want to do that. So if there's anybody, if you or you think somebody that you know might be interested in doing that, please get them in contact with me. Either DM me on Instagram or email me at tripsittingblog@gmail.com. I think that would just be a lot of fun to, one, be able to actually kind of film this experience and show people that might be scared that this isn't a scary experience. It's something that you can't get through. And also, anytime that I'm on mushrooms, specifically, after I've kind of gone through the peak, once I'm on that come down, my head just feels so clear. And I think being able to have that discussion, and I'm also just speaking out of pure love in those moments. So being able to have the discussions when we're open and clear and just full of love, I think would bring really, really amazing discussions with, again, all types of people that, would be interested in having that experience. And I'm not talking we're taking like fucking 5 grams and then doing it. Probably 1 to 2 grams realistically, but I'll kind of leave that up to the guest. But yeah, I do want to start doing that. So if you think that's a terrible idea too, please also tell me. If you think it's a good idea, let me know. And if you have people that you think might be interested, talk to me. If anything I said in here as well that you agree with, that you don't agree with, please, let's have a discussion. I love being able to have discussions with people, and that's kind of the whole reason why I do this. So thank you again. I love you all. I appreciate you all. And I'll see you next week.